subscribe to our channel of Light Fluid. The Yellmach Chronicles by MC Morado. Goods Train, March 13th, 1932. It was a nice and sunny morning out. The day is rather muggy and damp from light rain sprinkling down in Sudrian Junction. "On, Edith, we're taking a goods train to Chronicles." Alex woke me up from my nap in the engine shed. "Really? Is it safe?" I asked, having a bad feeling about this already. "Yes, for us anyway. As long as our trains fly the Yelvian flag abroad, then we should be fine. It's just normal goods like firearms, bicycles and other stuff. Besides, attacking a neutral government's trains is a war crime anyhow," Alex says reassuringly, not giving me much hope given his undying optimism. "If you say so," I muttered weakly. I followed Alex where Darren left us to borrow Cobbler for the time being. Cobbler is an 064 tank engine built by Darren and Alex in 1924, being mostly a Frankenstein of an old tram rebuilt into a tank engine and parts salvaged from a scrapyard. Cobbler is small for an 064 standard gauge tank engine, but way too big to be a narrow gauge engine, looking like an overgrown narrow gauge engine since steam trams built in the last century weren't that big. Cobbler's fresh coat of dark green paint with yellow stripes makes the locomotive stand out, and Alex says it's the second time Cobbler's ever had a coat of paint. By now I've heard all about how Cobbler wasn't properly painted until 1927. Alex hopped into the cab and I followed suit. We got Cobbler warmed up and ready to go. I shoveled in sawdust, garbage, mulch and shredded bits of tyres into the engine's firebox to get it going. "I see Edith. She loves running on rubbish," Alex jokingly teased, pointing out how the coal bunk was filled with many kinds of agricultural and industrial waste. "Has Cobbler ever seen any coal?" I coughed as the black smoke out of the Cobbler's funnel wafted into the cab. "How often? Nothing goes to waste in Darren's workshop. Whatever can't be recycled is fed to Cobbler," he scoffed, shrugging his shoulders. Dirty rags, manure from feral farm animals, flammable garbage, soiled bedsheets, old tattered clothes, a broken chair leg, rotten uneaten food, food waste, mouldy loaves of bread, a few stinky shoes, broken wooden toys. Only some of what I shovel into Cobbler's firebox. Whew, the coal bunker smells awful. The smoke and steam coming from Cobbler's funnel makes our eyes water from the nasty stench. "Hey, just Cobbler saying she's running well. You get used to the stink after a while. Darren doesn't baby a workhorse like this. Cobbler eats rubbish and abuse for breakfast. She's got so much torque she can rip a freight car apart as his brakes on tight," Alex laughed, noticing me coughing while shoveling various waste and garbage into the firebox. "I can tell," I wheezed, coughing from the smoke. By the time we got the goods train and now headed east for Chronicles, Cobbler had been treated with being called up for once for the journey ahead. Nice change of pace to not breathe in the smoke from burning garbage. Alex calls Cobbler's garbage burning smoke a rubbish smoke. Alex calls garbage rubbish, like most Yelvian people. Using the words garbage and rubbish interchangeably is the norm in Yellmach. The goods train is hauling all types of consumer goods, along with some weapons purchased by the Chronicles military, according to what Alex told me. Our journey east spanned 200 kilometres before crossing the border into the war-torn Chronicles. Upon going to a non-neutral nation, it was a night and day difference. Cobbler chuffed along neglected tracks, partially overgrown with weeds. Chronicles so far looks to have been destroyed. The burned remains of tanks and abandoned vehicles cover the battlefield. Crashed planes burning away in fields. Air raid sirens were sounding off in the distance. "Where is everybody?" I asked, looking at the devastation from the safety of Cobbler's cab. "No bloody idea. It's like the battle went somewhere else. Still, so many bodies were left behind," Alex reluctantly replied, getting a good look at the carnage from inside the cab next to me. Cobbler soon passed by a series of mass graves dug for soldiers had been forgotten to be covered up with dirt. An air of decay lingered everywhere. Towns, villages, and even cities were unrecognisable, all bombed to rubble. Where is everybody gone? Are the people who ordered the stuff on the goods train still alive? The abandoned remains of cars, lorries and military vehicles littered the roads. Was everybody in a hurry to go somewhere? If so, then why? The only signs of life so far are only escaped feral farm animals roaming aimlessly, stray pets, feral wildlife. Charred skeletons covered in overgrowths of nature such as vines served as a reminder of what's left of a city after being left deserted for nature to reclaim. Was this a result of King Eric supplying both sides and watching them destroy each other? Plausible, but only part of a more complex situation. The signal boxes, water towers, coaling stations, locomotives, everything about the railways in Kavlaka looked to have been forgotten, and the rails show a little rust from not being used for some time. Do you think we should keep going? I nervously pondered, already wanting to turn back as the constant blaring sound of air raid sirens in the distance could be heard with a haunting echo. We're not even close to where we're supposed to drop the goods train off. I promise. After this, we'll turn back and head back to Yellmach with Cobbler. Alex reassured me that everything would be fine, but at this point in the trip that was looking highly doubtful. So far, we haven't come across a single place in Kavlak that hasn't been completely destroyed and left in ruins. No signs of life. Freight cars full of coal are a common sight to pass by on the rails, a stark contrast to back home. Whole passenger trains left derailed. The coaches having been set on fire at one point a while ago. Everything was all left to rot. The skies are cloudy from the smoke of burning war wreckages. Is this what hell looks like? Holy moly, that's a lot of coal trucks. When we've done the goods from, we're definitely bringing some coal trucks back home, Alex commented, mostly noticing the abandoned freight cars more than the apocalyptic ruins surrounding us on all sides. I sort of see why Alex is more interested in coal trucks right now. Kavlakan coal is of the highest quality, burning with very little ash, burning much longer, and with more heat than domestic coal. Yelvian coal back home leaves a lot of ash and is generally seen as a cheap bottom-of-the-barrel coal in normal circumstances. On the other hand, oil being burned in a locomotive is more potent than even the best Kavlakan coal. Regardless, Cobbler kept chuffing along the neglected tracks towards the city where Alex says we're supposed to deliver the goods train at. Darren left me here now, so much scrap for him to collect. Alex chuckled as the grey wolf tried to hide his own uneasiness. I can do that at his own discretion. I wouldn't go with him, I commented not even a split second later. Right now in Yellmach, since the war began, there's been a very strong emphasis on collecting scrap, rationing petrol, making do without coal except for railway use only, and wasting nothing. Steamships from other nations are sometimes left stranded at Yelvian ports because they can't get coal to refuel instead of stocking up on enough coal to pass by Yellmach, which doesn't have the fuel these steamships need. King Eric so far is having hydroelectric power plants built, so we don't need to ration petrol in the future. Did you hear about the wood petrol? I said in a tone that made it clear I wanted to take my mind off the devastation around us for at least a little bit. Wood petrol? I heard about it. Somebody had been building contraptions for wood pyrolysis to make wood gas and even oil to make into petrol or diesel. Last week on my way home I saw a car driving by that had a whole setup to run on wood gas. Alex told me it was something about what goes on back home with people dealing with the stingy petrol rationing policies. My family back in the northern half of Yellmach know farmers that are mixing little heating oil with moonshine distilled to be pure alcohol in order to make petrol. Attempting to take my mind off the war-torn ruins around us was short-lived by the sound of gunfire becoming closer. We watched a Posian military airplane be shot down and crash onto the ground in a brutal fiery blaze. For once we saw a big city that hasn't been completely destroyed coming closer as Cobbler kept going along the tracks. Almost there, Alex announced. I was too tired to reply, very much busy with shoveling coal into the firebox. Cobbler eventually made it into the war-torn but not completely destroyed city. So far the only place with signs of life, albeit as an active battlefield. Alex stopped the trains at a dilapidated station usually meant for picking up passengers. We were out of Cobbler's cab to uncouple the locomotive from the goods train and also stretch our legs. Multiple platoons of Kavlakan soldiers flooded the dilapidated station to take whatever they needed from the goods train, almost raiding the shipment, which I can only assume their leaders paid for. Some soldiers looked to be visibly injured, burned, have their tail missing, or reek of not showering for days, or all of the above. Their uniforms are dirty, some having all bloodstains, and a few articles of uniform clothing showing tears. The Tatra shepherd in uniform with a helmet decorated with 3 bronze stars approached us. I felt scared seeing that the tired Tatra shepherd soldier had eyes that didn't look at someone, but rather through anyone. The Avians have arrived. Yeah, you are just in time. We're running low on supplies. The name is General Dabrowski. What can I do for you two? The Tatra shepherd introduced himself as the Kavlakan general. What happened? I thought out loud, watching planes fly by above to begin bombing in broad daylight. Bazdia is doing an invasion on the motherland. Half the population is dead now, so most of the government. If Prime Minister dies, only I am left to take mantle. General Dabrowski explained, not exactly in a good mood. Well, good luck on becoming Prime Minister. Our engine needs coal and water for the journey back home, Alex awkwardly interjected, not trying to be rude or anything. Coal and water tower 20 kilometres northeast. Watch out for Sergeant Kowalski. That white fox lost his mind. Be careful. He doesn't care if you're Yellmach, Kovlakin or Pozdian. He will kill you. He is one of my men, but his mind like scrambled eggs. General Dabrowski warned with a strong air of caution. Aye, thanks. I will be on our way. Bye. Alex enthusiastically thanked the General, waving him goodbye. I followed Alex back into Cobbler's cab, before on our way to refuel at a nearby rail yard, in the war-torn city being currently used as a battlefield. Going along the tracks made us occasionally have to stop Cobbler, so Alex and I could manually switch the points on the tracks. Some parts of the track were destroyed by air raids. We saw many chemical weapons being dropped out of planes during our trip to refuel Cobbler. Posians are showing no mercy to anyone on the ground. Upon finally stopping to refuel Cobbler, we watched a battle take place on the rail yard not even half a kilometre from where we were. Alex ducked for cover behind Cobbler. I squatted down to hide inside the engine's cab. A Kovlakin soldier, an Arctic Fox, was in a gunfight with 9 Pozdian enemy soldiers alone. The right side of that Arctic Fox's face was burned and charred, his right ear missing, no fur left on the burned right side of his face. "Catch him if you can, you Pozdian pigs!" the Arctic Fox shouted, ducking behind cover to skillfully aim a bolt-action rifle. We watched the Arctic Fox only use 9 bullets to kill each enemy soldier with a single headshot from over 100 metres away. Mother of God, Alex whispered to himself, the grey wolf noticing the Arctic Fox's disfiguring burns. When Alex and I continued to finish refueling Cobbler, that burned Arctic Fox noted us. The Arctic Fox approached, pointing the rifle at us. "Hey, who sent you, foreign fools?" He addressed us in 2 voices. The Arctic Fox spoke with a normal voice, and sometimes his voice would suddenly change to a deeper, gritty and angry voice, having a different accent entirely. He moved around in a way akin to someone with a severe concussion or even brain damage. I'm not a medic by any means, but everyone working the Y&R is required to memorise the first aid handbook to spot symptoms among co-workers. "Dropping off a good strain of the Kovlakin military. We'll be leaving now," I called out, not wanting any trouble from possibly brain-damaged Fox wielding a rifle. "Not so fast, you Albion cowards. Follow me now. Do as I say or die," the Arctic Fox shouted, twitching a little. Alex and I slowly went out with our hands up. "Are you Sergeant Kowalski?" Alex asked at the worst time possible. "How do you know my name?" the Arctic Fox questioned, now aiming the rifle at the back of the grey wolf's head. "You're famous around here. Who wouldn't know your name?" I mustered up an excuse, really hoping Sergeant Kowalski bought it. "You have one funny woman. Only the ones I kill at night don't know my name. My platoons are saying I'm losing it. I say I'm doing whatever it takes," Sergeant Kowalski replied, walking behind, still pointing his rifle at us. "You wouldn't shoot unarmed civilians, right?" I asked nervously, hoping this maniac isn't going to murder us in cold blood. Without another word, Sergeant Kowalski shot his rifle, the bullet grazing Alex's left ear and causing it to bleed. "Yes, I would, Corgi. Enemies can be in disguise, blending in. Kill them all!" the Arctic Fox barked, leading myself and Alex into a crudely put-together prison from an abandoned police station. Sergeant Kowalski then threw me and Alex into a makeshift prison cell with a stack of rotting corpses and soldiers and civilians alike. I began to cough violently from that stink of death alone. Sergeant Kowalski walked round his own makeshift prison, now pulling out a revolver. "Let me out of here, Kowalski. I know you're still in there. Stop the madness!" the Kovlakin soldier cried out in fear. "How do I know you're not sent by Dabrowski?" "Kill him! Kill him! Kill!" "Wait. Why am I doing this?" "Kill everyone in sight. Man, woman, child. I'm so sorry. We have work to do." Sergeant Kowalski argued with himself as the 2 voices were 2 different people. The Arctic Fox went on a spree of shooting all his many prisoners, carrying out those merciless actions with cold, calculated efficiency. "Let's get out of this psycho's lair," Alex loudly whispered, pulling out a hairpin from an overall pocket for picking the cell door lock open. We quietly sprinted out of the police station till we were back in the safety of Cobbler's cab. I frantically shovelled Kavlak and coal into Cobbler's 5-ox. Alex turned knobs and flipped levers, making Cobbler chuff along the tracks at full speed. Cobbler isn't the fastest tank engine by anyone's standards. It goes just over 70 kilometres per hour, can maintain the top speed when hauling over 100 tons of freight. Cobbler works very well, despite originally starting life as a steam tram in 1898, before finally becoming what she is today in 1924. Kavlak has still remained in shambles, only getting worse before our eyes, no matter which way we go. Cobbler's paint got dirtier from all the ash and dirt kicking up in the air, making its side tanks covered in filth. Alex didn't care if the engine got dirty. Cobbler's a workhorse, not out pulling coaches. It was fascinating hearing the Grey Wolf almost brag about how so many 19th century locomotives are still being used all throughout Yellmach, outliving people with the oldest locomotives currently on service on Yelvian railways being built in the 1860s on the narrow gauge lines. Yelvian railways are more interested in preservation as opposed to scrapping if it wasn't obvious. Engines beyond being repaired if the safety specs of the railways are either used for parts or sent to Derren. Hugh and Alex mentioned how his wildest fantasy is hopefully one day having the chance to walk inside the secretive Royal Steam Preservation Museum, made off limits to the public in 1904, is interesting. Alex disputed how nerdy he can be with trains. I listened, nodding as he talked, bringing up rumours of the secretive rail museum having every kind of old locomotive in preservation, on top of the museum itself being expanded. King Eric allegedly goes there alone sometimes. I egged Alex on to tell another railway story. Royal Steam Preservation Museum is the first of its kind. Old engines are restored, repaired and preserved. When King Eric was officially crowned as our king in 1905, the Rail Museum became even more secretive, after officially being closed to the public during the previous king's rule. King Eric, since becoming king, has been buying up all the land in the countryside surrounding the museum located in the middle of nowhere. He calls it Steam Paradise. According to what I've heard from Derren, Steam Paradise takes up 9% of Yellmach's land as a nature reserve closed off to the public, and a place where steam engines run along tracks. Rumours float about. Legends say some abandoned narrow gauge and standard gauge lines take you to the Steam Paradise. High-ranking military men working on the Steam Paradise Railway were to be tasked with being surrounded by only dense forest and nature. Yet they all describe it as just taking old engines out of their slumber to keep them moving for many miles along pristine tracks. Only things there besides tracks were water towers and coaling stations. Signal boxes are few and far between. Some say King Eric is still buying vacant and developed land or abandoned farms to this day, making his beloved Steam Paradise even vaster than ever. Who knows? What goes on in the northern half of Yellmach where Steam Paradise is might have rare locomotives beyond my mildest imagination. Alex told me the tale of our country's largest national park by far. The Grey Wolf knows how to intrigue me in a way that distracts from the war-torn ruins of Kavlaka. The second largest national park in Yellmach isn't even an eighth the size of Steam Paradise. Kavlaka, being largely reduced to a burning wasteland and a lifeless husk of its former glory, sends a wave of equal parts existential dread, and also equal parts of saddening realisation. There were more dead bodies littering the wasteland, all meeting horrific ends as a byproduct from a war ordered by feuding world leaders, sending thousands of soldiers a day to their deaths, not even counting the tens of millions of helpless civilians targeted since the outbreak of war began. At this point in the war, by seeing the injured, dirty states of soldiers, it's all a fight to the very end, regardless that both sides appear to slowly run out of uninjured men. This war has no winners, only survivors. Is the rest of yours all like this, Alex? I sadly pondered the Grey Wolf, looking out into the battlefield ruins from the safety of Cobbler's cab. Mostly. For the most part, yeah. Kavlaka and Postia have gotten their worst. So far the whole Continental War has taken over 70 million lives. Postia started this whole calamity all because a dictator wanted to stay in power. At this point in the war, Postia is beginning to stop deploying troops on the ground of enemy nations to only do air raids, dropping more lethal chemical weapons. I think Postia is simply running out of soldiers, in all honesty. He hasn't responded, indirectly admitting to keeping up with what goes on. Our trip of dropping off a good string of Kavlaka, or what's left of it, only gave a bleak reminder of our future being nations going to war over resources or political power. A bomb-burning wasteland makes massive economic collapse across the most devastated nations in Yozur a minor inconvenience. Can't have an economy if so much of a country's population has died. Seemingly nobody left to pick up the pieces. Speaking of engines built in the 1860s, when I visited Talyllyn Railway, I got to ride behind number 1 Talyllyn, which was built for the opening of the railway back in 1865, and she ran everything along with her sister Dolgoch, the old lady as Tom Rolt called her, up until the early 50s when the Preservation Society got some more locomotives in from the Corris Railway, which is then closed down. And yes, Dolgoch, the old lady, is still running herself. Well preserved, well taken care of these days. So yeah, build good engines, they will keep running for a very long time. Which unfortunately British Railways never got the hang of. But enough of that. And that was the latest instalment of the Yellmach Chronicles. There is another reasonably short one coming up, and then we have quite a long one, so I might fit a couple in next month, we'll see. It is the end of May, so hopefully we'll have 2 instalments in June. We'll see how things go there. Anyway, coming up on the weekend will be more journal. It's been quite a few months. I didn't intend to leave it that long, but we'll be dropping back into that VN for another update. And then I have everything else lined up for my patrons, so they know what's going on for June. Of course, if we get any extra ones I'm not expecting to come out, I will be making episodes of new VNs if they do come out. And before I go, as always, I'd like to say thank you to all my donors on Patreon. You are very, very much appreciated. And my top patrons are Ara Amaterasu, Tiger Cub, Samutu, Spiderling, Rafu, Omar, Andy Peng, Aaron Fox, Bastian, Bieka, Ryan Hall, Cobus Visser, Dissonance, Exact, Grizz, Half Mouse Productions, Ida Corval, Evan King, Kartek, Matt Kenya, Maria Cervantes, and Mohammed Al Samel. Special thanks to them, and until the weekend, and journal, thanks for watching. Bye for now.